we need to turn our attention to the pandemic, the lockdown, to COVID. Professor Devi Sridhar, children went back to school this week, and there are concerns that the fact that they are back in school in huge numbers, of course, will lead to a rise in infections. Does the massively successful vaccination campaign mitigate against that?
Well, sort of. We're in this really tricky situation where we want to open up, get the economy open. Kids had to get back into school in some way or the other. But at the same time, we don't want to tip R over one and then see an accelerating epidemic and then have to have restrictions put in place. The vaccine has helped because we are seeing hospitalizations come down in over 64s who have been vaccinated, but it's actually increasing in under 64s in terms of the percentage. So we can see the burden shifting now to people age 40 to 64. So we still have a ways to go till we get vaccinations through the younger age groups. It's coming. So people should be optimistic. There's light ahead. We're going to have a pretty good summer compared to what we've been through over the past 6 months, but we need to have patience.
Well, it's interesting. Can we just bring in Dr. Hillary here on these tests? So part of what's happening in schools is that there are these, I think we know lateral flow tests, which are these sorts of rapid tests.
Sure.
There is some confusion over, actually, if one's done at school and it comes out as positive, then you go for another one, which is the sort
PCR
of
test.
the PCR test, which is the much more sort of
Gold standard.
accurate. Yeah. And if that comes out as negative, actually, you still have to isolate the class and all of that. What is the point of that?
No, at school, I think, if you have a PCR test after a positive COVID lateral flow test, if it's done at school, that the whole class doesn't have to isolate.
There is a huge discrepancy going on. Different schools are adopting different policies, but it's quite clear the schools currently are having twice weekly rapid lateral flow tests, but these do give false positive results.
Yes.
So if one child has a positive lateral flow test, they should go home, self-isolate until they have the gold standard PCR test. If that PCR test is negative, they should be allowed to go back to school. So it's quite clear.
God, I'm confused.
Hang on,
I am confused, and I'm the parent of children at school.
You don't take 30 children out of school because of one positive lateral flow test.
Let me give you an example. Rachel Clark, who is a doctor who we have featured numerous times on this programme, very outspoken about the government's handling of the pandemic. You really, really couldn't make this up, she tweets. After one day of school, my son and 30 other pupils are self-isolating at home for 10 days after one child had a positive school lateral flow test, even though the subsequent gold standard PCR test was negative, as you were saying.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense. So they need to contact the community health people and check the school policy with what the government chief scientific officers are saying should be followed. It's straightforward. The lateral flow testing system is designed to reassure people and get as many children safely in school as possible. It's also being applied to staff members as well. So if we do plenty of these tests, which are less reliable than PCR, but much more rapid, then at least we can say, right, it might be positive, go home, have the PCR test, but if that's negative, it rules out infection.
Professor Devi Sridhar, about this suggestion also that the vaccination programme ought to be prioritising those from ethnic minority backgrounds. I mean, that's been a narrative that we've come to understand over the last 6 months or so, that people from non-white backgrounds, for many myriad of reasons, are more affected by COVID deaths and how serious it gets for them. Does the vaccination programme need to change its priority from age now to ethnic minorities?
Well, this is a tricky one because it's not just ethnic minorities, it's also occupational risk. I really feel for police officers who are exposed to large crowds spitting at them, to teachers who might be going into classrooms where they feel unsafe. And so I think when I look at JCVI and their advice, they're saying we need to go at speed. The way we can go at speed administratively and get the most number of people covered as quickly as possible through our systems is through age and health issues, which are coded in the NHS systems. That's why we're going that approach. There are, of course, other considerations. Of course, ethnicity is a risk factor. Occupation is a risk factor. But it would slow down the rollout. And I think right now everyone acknowledges we need speed. And the UK is leading in terms of being as fast as it is in getting vaccines out.